All right, now we're recording.
Yes.
We're already live. We were already live for a little bit, and so we're bemoaning.
That's okay. Yeah, we're just talking about our technical difficulties because I'm on the surface of Mars up here in St. George. You know, the red waste, as it were. So yeah, it's been an adventurous day and travel, and well, we've been here a day and a half now.
Yeah.
And we got a swim in this morning.
Okay.
And took my breath away.
Okay, so well, let's just catch everybody up because maybe not everyone who watches this is knowing that where you are right now. So you've got Ironman 70.3 St. George, along with like 50 other Las Vegas folks. I don't know how many are there.
There's a ton of Vegas folks up here for sure.
It is great. So so you're up in St. George, Utah.
Yep.
Which is the red dirt part. So that's
the red dirt. It's beautiful.
The race is tomorrow, and fortunately for you, the heat just came through, and I know you raced really well in the heat. So
I do race well in the heat, but here's the thing: just because you race well in the heat doesn't mean you enjoy it. You know, I keep telling myself I like the heat, and I do, and like it doesn't bother me, but you know, a run in 70 degrees, I also would prefer. But I really do well in the heat. I've always done well in the heat, and but I've always, you know, acclimatized some.
Yeah, right. And you haven't this time.
We've come out of nowhere. Like I've been trying to do my trainings in the middle of the day as much as I can, and even driving home from work this week a couple of times, I turned the heater on in the car and kept the windows up. And I got home, and one day I got home and Marie was working, and I'm like sweating, like literally just sweat dripping down. I got my nice pants on from work. They're wet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I gotta do something to acclimatize the best that I can. I don't have a sauna at home. So definitely, it came out of nowhere for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think a lot of people
we've been very mild, if not cold temperatures. So
I think a lot of people are freaking out about it. I think, you know, the only people kind of around here are people that maybe been down in Tucson training or living. But other than that, because, you know, it's not like it's been hot in California either.
Well, I don't want to pass on misinformation, but I heard that they don't have any ice.
Really?
I did, yes.
Oh my!
I don't know how reliable the source is, but don't plan on any ice tomorrow. So
I'm really glad you said that, because I am planning on ice. Like I'm going to be very upset when I get to a run aid station and there's no ice.
Yeah.
So now at least I have it in my mind that there's no ice.
You may not. Yeah.
And that actually, honestly, thank you. That really, it makes me upset, but also makes me even more.
At least you know.
Yeah, you know, right? Because when you start getting to mile 1, there's no ice, and now it gets self-serve too, right?
Yeah. So okay. I didn't know that. Yeah.
I'd be looking for ice.
Yeah. All right. Well, let me tell a little bit story on my end. Then my first Ironman was Ironman Japan on Fukui Island, hot and humid, and everyone spoke Japanese. No one spoke English. And I'm on the run, hot and humid. And you know me, hot and humid just doesn't mix.
Oh.
And so I'm looking for water and what have you. I had no idea that there was ice there. And eventually I saw someone grab some ice, and then I learned the word for ice, mizu. No, mizu was water. So then I forget ice now, and then all of a sudden I would be able to start asking for ice. And it was like night and day. I mean,
that's a game changer, right?
It's a total game changer. Yeah. Putting your hat everywhere. So.
Well, I hope that they somehow figure out how to make ice in Utah.
Yeah.
They can go up to the mountains and chip some away.
That's right. And I wore my 70.3 shirt from 2019.
Oh, awesome.
So, yeah. Love the course. I mean,
it is an honest, hard course. It's a championship, right? This is the North American Championship. It is a hard course. You know, like it's a cold swim. It's a hard bike, and I don't know. I don't think there's I don't know if there's a harder run. I really don't. Like, just because the steepness of that one climb and
coming down
it's brutal.
Yeah.
You know, and there's not one bit of flat on the run course. There's literally no flat. It's either you're going up or you're going down the entire time. There's no shade.
Yeah. And that long stretch of road on the run, was it, is it Veterans or what's the
Diagonal?
It's got a huge camber to it too.
It's got a camber. I don't know if I'll be able to do it tomorrow, but historically I've tried to run on the sidewalk.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Just so it wasn't on that camber, because it's horrible.
Right. Yeah.
So, but like
That's
I said,
why you love it.
You love it, man. Like, it's so interesting. We're contemplating, not contemplating. I'm thinking about other races that I'm going to do this year, and one is the Ironman California in Sacramento.
Yeah.
And you look at the profile, it's like 200 feet of profile change in an Ironman, right? Like, okay, I mean, but what's the I get the challenge of the Ironman, but on dead flat courses, it just seems to me like it's different.
It's a different challenge. I always say there's no easy.
Yeah, it's just different.
There's some courses that take longer to do.
Yeah.
It's just a different type of hard when you're in that position for so long.
That's true, right? Because this course, like, I didn't do a ton of aero training because I know, like, you're not needed. You're up in and out of aero the entire time. Yeah. So yeah, it's good. I mean, honestly, John, today, just seeing everybody around and this huge transition area, it's like I just had this smile on my face. It was like racing's back, and yeah, it just feels, I don't know, it feels good to be. It's been so long. I mean,
you know what? When we did our Tri Club event earlier this month, one of the things that I really saw was people just enjoyed being out and doing it. They, I messed up on the timing system. Nobody cared, or no one told me they cared, but they enjoyed being out racing so much. And that was the key. And I think this is what you have this weekend is, ability to celebrate, rebooting triathlon. And we've missed it for a year. And so now I think it's going to be really neat to see which parts you really sort of appreciate more, maybe now that maybe we didn't think about. And
no, for sure. And it may be something little, it may be some kid on the side of the street cheering for you or whatever, like that you didn't maybe appreciate as much before. And no, it's absolutely true. So
that's great. Well, it's neat that you've seen some people. Obviously we got a big crew up there. Vegas. So I didn't count them all, but there's probably 50 or more coming up from Vegas and Henderson. So
well, and it's nice that they put the Tri Club people on the same bike rack. And unfortunately, I don't know why they did it, but the all world athletes got different bike rack. So I'm not with the Tri Club.
Oh, interesting. So if you're all world, you'll be in a different, okay. Well,
and it's not, and I don't have it's not like I have a great spot. It's it's not like I'm right on the end and got a good prime spot.
Yeah.
So I'd much rather be at the Vegas people. So it is what it is. I'm not going to complain. I'm racing. Who cares? There's nothing to complain about here. I got to be honest with you, except for the cold water.
What's the temperature of the water?
Well, they lied to us. I could tell you that.
Yeah.
Because yesterday at check-in, they said it was 62. And I know 62. I've swam in 62. And I know 57 and 58. And I've swam in those. This is like 58, 59.
Yeah. Wow.
When we got in this morning, and I haven't had this feeling since last summer when I was in the Pacific Ocean. I got Slurpee head.
Oh, really?
And my eardrum started just like the and it took my breath away. I've been really working on my distance per stroke lately, and that was gone. It was like super high turnover because I'm trying to breathe, and I was just really glad we actually got in and we just did like 500-600 this morning. Because now tomorrow I'm not going to be the mental side is going to be okay. Good. So that was a good hit out for sure.
Well, just curious, do you use a Neoprene hoodie?
No. I was thinking about doing a double. I get a latex. Nice thick one. So I'm gonna do that and then put the race cap on top. So that'll give me a little bit more. And I'm gonna make sure to pull it down a little further over my ears. So maybe that'll help not have so much water getting into my eardrums.
Good.
But I mean, I'm good now. Like I said, it was just more like getting used to that again, right? I'd only swam in the lake once this year, and that was last week, and it was Lake Mead. It was 66. 66 is fine, you know, but you get down below 60. So at the gate entrance this morning, it said 58 on the thing. It was in the Ironman Village. They said 62 yesterday. I was like so happy. I was like 62.
Yeah, right.
And again, we swam this morning and it's been over 90 for most of the day.
Yeah, well,
so maybe it'll bump up a degree.
A little bit. Yeah, that's right. So, well, it's that water is always a little bit cooler, but so yeah, no, that'll go well though. That'll be good.
Yeah.
All right. So now
I'll be good.
The bike, you've got some warmer temps that are coming through and a little bit of a wind.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I ran the best bike splits, which I was gonna share with us today. And it's interesting. Looks like right now we're gonna get a tailwind in the morning.
Oh, is it? Okay.
And it's gonna switch in the afternoon to
That's right, because I looked at my phone. It looked like it was coming out of the southeast.
Yeah, but not until later, supposedly. And I literally just ran my best bike split. So I'm going to share, let me get to that screen and share that.
Yeah, for those who don't know the St. George course, and we'll see it in a second when the screen comes up, but it's basically a point to point. It's not fully point to point, but you do more southeast direction. So if the wind's coming out of the southeast, you're going to have an overall headwind.
Exactly.
But you're right. This area is notorious for changes in wind direction. I mean, it's right out of, you got Hurricane Utah right there, and it's aptly named Hurricane Utah.
Exactly. And there's no protection here.
Yep.
Right, like and because of the hills and the hilly nature, we were just talking about it. You can be thinking you're going to get a tailwind, and you just get into a little valley.
That's right.
And you get a headwind, you get a tailwind. So you got to really be, in my opinion, when it's a course like this where it's going to be a little bit of wind, you just got to, wherever it is, you just got to do what you got to do. You know, if it's a little bit of a climb and you're into a headwind, you just got to stay arrow and not get out. And be smart about it and feel the wind. And I think that's an important part of racing. We've really never talked about that, John, where you alter your plan based off of the wind and how you're positioned. And like for me, when I'm into a headwind, that's when I really concentrate on getting as small as possible, turtling and bringing my shoulders in and getting tiny. And I think that's ultimately really, really important to do.
Oh, that's great. That's great advice. And we've got some people listening, and I know they're racing tomorrow. So, all right. So why don't you walk us through what you've got here? Start with the map down at the bottom.
Yep. So here is the map. Let me make it just a little bit bigger for people. So here's the lake where we're going to swim. And so we are going to obviously come around here. And this is a nice, good climb out of Sand Hollow for those of you that have been here. It'll wake you up three miles into the ride. And then relatively flat, another hill in here. And then relatively just rolling hills until you get to this corner here. And then you go up Snow Canyon. And Snow Canyon is, that's the toughest part of the course for sure. Cause you're 40 miles into it by the time you get to there. And then you got to climb. How much altitude is it actually? It goes from, well, I don't even have the elevation there. Well, you climb about 1,000 feet in 4 miles. So it's a significant climb, and then you get a nice long downhill all the way into the transition zone. So I was talking to some of the athletes we're staying with, and saying basically you just got to get to mile 45. Or 46 on the bike. This is not a 56-mile bike ride. This is a 46.
Unless that wind's coming out of the south.
Unless the wind's coming out of the south. So it's actually interesting. So our little guy here in the corner, this is the wind. And so if we start way up here, you'll actually see as far as where I will be, the direction I'm going, where the wind is.
Okay, so did you update the weather?
Like an hour ago.
An hour ago, okay. That's awesome. And so if people don't know, Best Bike Splits talks to a weather app and they get the wind prediction.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So,
and you can do it based upon historical data too.
Yeah.
So you can build it ahead of time.
So as we go through, we're actually seeing, like, as I climb up here, should get a headwind.
That's all flat right there.
Yeah.
That's a little hill coming back.
A little bit. And then tailwind, crosswind, tailwind.
You're using your disc?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Always ride a disc.
Yep.
I need a t-shirt that says that. Maybe we should get evidence-based triathlon and then underneath, always ride a disc.
Yeah. And have a neoprene cap ready to go. I wear a neoprene cap. Anytime it's under 60 degrees, I put a cap on because as I've gotten older, I get out of the cold water. I do lose my balance a bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So yeah, anyways, mostly tailwind.
Yeah. Crosswind, tailwind. Yeah.
Until you get to Snow Canyon.
Now, do you put in what time you're going to be doing this now? Yeah.
So I put in 8 o'clock.
Okay.
As the estimated time. It's a rolling start and the pros start at 7, I think.
Yep.
And so by the time I get it in, 7:20. So, but yeah, and then down with the crosswind. This is the scary part.
Oh yeah.
Then it's going to be a crosswind, but that's okay. I can handle that. So into the numbers though, which is the fun part, where we go into time analysis and we can make some changes here. So this is best case scenario. For me is average power 236 watts, normalized power 245. This is 85%. No, it's less than that. I think I put an 85% of my FTP.
Okay.
And we haven't talked much about this before, but that's a number that's it gets bandied about a lot in triathlon circles, is what percentage of your FTP should you be riding at in whatever distance race. And 0.85 seems to be, for people that have been racing a while and training consistently, seems to be the number that comes up most often. So that's the one I used. I don't know. It seems like I'm in good bike shape right now. Probably the best bike shape I've been in a long time, maybe ever. And so I've never held that kind of power. I think my record before was 220.
Really?
So for average.
Yeah.
So
okay.
This is 236. But I've never had an FTP that was a solid, like, known number that like this before. So we'll see. But if I do mess around a little bit, and 220 for this course is fast. Yeah. I mean, that's really, but I think the contributing factor is the amount of tailwind. Yep, that's right. I think that, yeah. So, but if I go down to, let's say, even 220 watts average power, it still only takes me to 225. So it's 5 minutes difference, which is a really interesting thing mentally to think about. Because I know myself right now, I could ride 220 watts at 135 heart rate. Okay. And just cruise, like, not even, be angry at myself. Right. Or do I go to 235? It's going to hurt. And I'll be breathing a lot, significantly harder. But that's racing, right? Like, that's, like, to me, like, that's the exciting part, is pushing yourself to, as far as you think you can go, and then still be able to run. Well, I think, that's a great point, because power is exponential. And so you're right. 5 watts. It's not just 5 watts. It's you're got to be thinking exponentially. And as you're going from, 230 to 235, that's a bigger 5 watts than 150 to 155. I know that sounds odd, but I mean, it is. It's going to feel that. Yeah, for me to go 220 to 235, the amount I've got to actually put out, right, is so much more than from 205 to 220. Like, I hardly noticed 205 to 220. But I think, we talked a lot about this, like in substrate usage, and because at 205 to 220, I'm probably burning more free fatty acid as a fuel source.
Yeah.
Right. Once I start to get higher up, I'm going to be utilizing more carbohydrates, less free fatty acid, potentially producing more metabolic damage, metabolic waste, more hydrogen ions, and all of these things are play a role when you start to get closer to your FTP.
Yeah,
for sure.
Oh, that's great. Well, this is really super interesting. And so, so you're going to be making decisions in real time too.
Yeah.
Based upon temperature.
And here's the other thing, John, is like the race, right? This is perfect if it was just me out there. But there's 3,500 people. So that's true. So okay. So let me ask you on your hydration. What are you doing carrying? What are you carrying throughout this? So I've got a between the arms bottle that's 24 ounces.
Okay.
I'm using this time. I always mess around. I shouldn't, but I'm doing UCAN and an amino acid blend.
Yeah.
And then I also have one bottle, 24 ounce behind my seat that I'll fill. And I will probably on like the third aid station, I will just grab a refill with water.
Okay.
And that'll be it. I don't think, in 2 hours and 20 minutes, that's a lot of water. That's a lot of fluid to bring in. And that'll be it. And then on nutrition, I'm using Gatorade endurance blocks, and I'll do 3 packs, like basically a pack every 45 minutes.
Yep.
On the bike. And then that's it for fuel. It's a different game when, we've talked a little bit about like Ironman training and Ironman fueling, but my goal is to be out there less than 4 hours and 40 minutes.
Yeah, right.
You can only bring in so much in that amount of time. And I don't know if I want to bring in anymore. The key has like been today and what I've been eating today and yesterday, and making sure when I go to bed tonight that I'm adequately fueled and, have a decent breakfast and bring up the liver glycogen stores and the muscle glycogen stores. Yeah.
Well, and on a hilly course like this or a rolling course like this, I mean, you got to figure to carry just the right amount, because you don't want to be carrying the extra weight.
No. Like when I get to the bottom of the Snow Canyon climb, I do not want to have I want to have just enough water to make it to the end.
Yep.
Right. So, and the problem is like there's an aid station at the bottom, and everyone loads up, and I've got to like, I got to be like, I'm thinking if I have one bottle at that point, it's still, I mean, I got an hour to finish, maybe from there, not even quite an hour, like 40 minutes to finish. That's all I want to end the ride with no water on my bike.
Yeah.
And it's not easy to, I've actually never quite done that. Well, sorry, no, I've done it, but it's been because of a mistake, not because it's like a dropped bottle type thing more than a choice.
Speaking of Snow Canyon, everyone talks about Snow Canyon. I mean, living here in Las Vegas, I mean, we've got plenty of climbs that are comparable, if not harder than that. But what's your approach as you go into Snow Canyon? Because one of the things that's missing from this course from before is that flat out and back, where you can sort of, mentally get ready for a nice climb. So without that, how are you approaching?
Yeah, for me, actually, I'll be looking forward to it because, there actually is still some flat.
Yep.
Right. So in this area, once there's still a little bit of flat before you get in. So there's the profile there. And Snow Canyon is a tricky little climb because it gets steeper. Like every half mile or 500 meters gets a little bit steeper, a little bit steeper, a little bit steeper. So it's interesting when you look at like best bike splits and you look at, how you would, if I was to go get the KOM here, which I could never do, but if I was to get my own personal KOM, it's all about dosage of watts. So we've talked a little bit about this before as well. The slower you're going, the more watts you should be producing. The steeper, the more watts. So in the bottom of this climb, I will be, I think on best bikes, but let's actually go back. I think it says for me to be 250 watts. And at the top, it says 300. Here we are. Yeah, the top says 300. So like the last mile, 295. But then we go down like in the earlier parts of the climb, it's 240, 250. So you got to, that's the plan, is to ease into the power rather than, okay, you're on Snow Canyon, let's go 300 watts the entire way, and then when you get to the steep part, you can't hold it.
Right.
So I think part of it is recognizing, knowing yourself and knowing, what you have left in you. And that's the other thing at this point, I'm 40 miles in at the bottom. I've been racing, for an hour and 40 minutes or whatever by this time. Actually, we can look at time right there. When I get to the bottom of Snow Canyon, it's going to be 1 hour and 37 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I get there. So I've been racing for an hour 37 on the bike, plus I've already swam. And so that's also a time for evaluation.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And starting to recognize, okay, like, am I on a good day? Like, do my legs feel good? Is it, is this feasible to do? And then there's always, the situation of the race,
Mm-hmm.
right? Am I with another one or two guys that are pushing the pace and I'm trying to keep with them? And that changes dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you've raced enough, like, you can have the best plan in the world, but the race happens.
Yeah.
And sometimes you make choices. If there's two guys that go past me that are going 10% faster than me, I might work pretty hard to get into their draft and stay the six bike lengths back, or 12 meters or whatever we've talked about. There's a draft at that point, and it's worth it it may be worth it for me in a flatter section to actually put out more power there, and then say, when I get to Snow Canyon, I might not have quite as much, but the advantage I gained in this spot, I will relent later.
So
that's the fun part of racing.
Yeah, no, a couple things on this. One, if you are going into a headwind, you can still maintain your legal distance, but you will get that draft zone will be bigger.
Exactly.
So that's a good thing to keep in mind. But then the other part on Snow Canyon, I hope it's not a tailwind going up.
Oh, me too.
Because
talk about that.
Now the cooling effect is going to be a little bit tougher unless the wind is that strong.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be a headwind going up. So here we are. Should be it looks like cross headwind.
Yeah.
Which would be great, because you're right. Like, you're not moving very fast, so the headwind doesn't affect you as much. And once again, you've been in Snow Canyon. It's a canyon, which means that on either side you've got mountain, and it can be very stagnant in there.
Mm-hmm.
If you get a little bit of a tailwind, and at that time of day, it could start to get pretty dang hot in there for sure.
I take my visor and I'll flip it up and I'll get it off my face, just to get whatever cooling effect you can get.
That's a great idea. See, there's another pro tip. You just gave me one. I probably would not have done that, but that's a great idea, especially on that climb.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. But make sure I better flip it back down for that way downhill.
Because now once you go down, you're going to need both hands on your handlebar.
Exactly. So anyways, it's kind of fun, to mess around with the best bike split, and it was fun. I helped out Matt and Colleen today, and we ran best bike splits on them, and they'd never done it before.
Awesome.
So we're making some race predictions for everybody, and I told them, in my experience, if I hold this wattage and I get the normalized power of 245, average power 236, I'll be within a minute of that time.
It's a pretty amazing program. I mean, the algorithm they have is pretty sophisticated. So
it is. If I basically follow the plan, I'll be there. Now, obviously, like, winds can change, and temperatures can change, but it's amazing how many times it's been within 2 minutes on a 70.3 for me.
Yeah. I remember when we did it, we were looking at whether or not I should use a different type of wheel in my case, it was Northman. And we looked at it, we're like, oh, this is only going to make, I think it was like minutes difference. I'm like, oh, that's not going to matter. So
Yeah, that's the best part of this is you can change everything,
Yeah.
right? You can say, I'm going to race this wheel or this wheel. I'm going to do this or this. I'm going to do this tube or tubeless and it's all built into the algorithm. And yeah, it's
And what's nice about that, and we talked about this in a previous podcast, it sort of gives you the confidence when you're riding that you have the right setup.
Yeah.
And once you're in that, otherwise you're doubting the whole time, like, oh, did I do, was this the right wheel? Was it not the right wheel? And that enters, you're when you're racing. I mean, and we're a year off from racing, so it'll be fun to see how quickly you get back in that mindset of just saying, okay, I need to be focused on everything that's positive. And
yeah, for sure.
Really working to go forward, and you can't have doubt creep in on different things. So
yeah, the doubt monsters.
Oh,
right?
Totally.
You got to slay them, and you've got to, even like the swim today, like the doubt monsters were in my head for that first 200, but I've slayed them. I'm like, okay, I'm good. I know what's going to happen tomorrow, and I'm good. It is what it is, and I'm no different than anyone else that's going to put their feet in that water tomorrow.
That's right. And you've got the tools to manage it, and you know what it's going to be like, and so you're going to get out on the swim, and then you're on your bike, and you've got a tremendous bike weapon, and then the run.
Yeah, this run is like no other. That first 5K, I tell you, it's for those of you that are going to race tomorrow, don't listen to this. It's soul sucking that first 5K, because you keep looking at your watch and you're like, I am working really hard and I'm not going very fast.
Mm-hmm.
But you get it into your mind that you're going uphill this entire time, and you're going to get this back on the way back.
That's right.
But it's like, I actually make it a point on that first 5K to not look at my pace.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And
because it's demoralizing, because I know how fast I want to run the race.
You got to get to that top part, and once you're at that top part,
then you can start
looking back into it. But you've got to survive that first run up. It is brutal.
It is. I don't know if there's another course I've ever ran that had a start like that. Like the World Championships in Chattanooga was a really tough. That was right up there with the hardest run courses I've ever done. Mm-hmm. And it was hot and humid, and there was probably as much climbing, if not more, than this. But the beginning was rolling downhill. It kind of got your legs going, right? This, I mean, you've done it. You and you go up, down, out of downtown. It is a climb just to start, and then it just keeps climbing. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad I know that, and I'm mentally prepared for that, and I have a plan in place for that. My plan was to be having ice everywhere, but that's gone. So
right. Or if it happens, it'll be a pleasant surprise.
It'll be a bonus. Yeah. It'll be like, oh, we got an ice shipment. It just happened after 5 minutes after you went past the aid station.
Okay, so how many aid stations are there on the run? I didn't look at it.
Oh, man, I don't even know. I think they just said like one every mile, about like traditional.
That's what I'm wondering, is how many are doubled up? Like how many times you pass the same one? Because if they only have to stock 3 aid stations, there's a good chance that they get some ice done.
Yeah, I don't know how many truly there is. We saw some. We drove part of the course today and saw some of it, but they just said every mile and a half, which is pretty typical. But like I said, I'm not too worried about the heat.
Well, the nice thing about that run course, not that you're there to enjoy the views, but it is a pretty view overlooking the city when you're up there. So.
Well, even coming back, the view into the valleys, and no, it's true. Like I can get on that race. Once you get out of the town, I can get really zen. I just get into this mode of like just focusing on the horizon, and it is beautiful. But we didn't talk about it, but the last bit is pretty challenging as well, where the last 5K is downhill, and that's when your quadricep muscles are done already. I can remember the first time I did it, I wasn't as prepared as I am now, and it was 2013. And I can remember every step just worrying. I was gonna cramp. I had to slow down, and I'm like,
especially that last quarter mile.
Oh yeah, especially the last quarter mile, straight downhill into the finish. And you got to go around that roundabout. I can remember going around the roundabout and like almost collapsing into the roundabout. So yeah, it'll be good. It'll be good. I'm looking forward to it. I really, like I said, I'm just looking forward to get back to racing. I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of the Vegas crew out here. And even today, just running into a few Vegas people, it was really good. So yeah.
No, that's good. I really think it's going to be great to see the celebration at the start line, and then again, 2 victories. I always think about that start line, you get there, and then that finish line. So and just having that gratitude of being able to race is
I'm in a different mental place than I've ever been too. It's really weird. It's like I think that the break gave me, I don't know, John, like something psychologically different, because I'm not nervous.
I actually think, and I was saying this to Laura earlier, I think your Everesting, I can't say it.
Everesting?
Yeah. That event, I think, was a game changer for you. I really do. Prepping for it and doing it. I think that really sort of took you up to another notch. So
I agree with you. Because like if you'd have asked me even 2 years ago when I was really racing well, I couldn't have Everested. I wasn't in that kind of bike shape. I really wasn't. And now I know it's been several months since then, but I've pretty much maintained a lot of my fitness since then. What I really need now, though, I need a week off. Bad.
Oh yeah.
Well, actually, that's not true. I feel great today because I've done a 2-week, actually I've been a 12-day taper. I've never done this long of a taper. I'm feeling great. So I actually don't feel like I need a week off, but I need a week off. Like the week after this, I'm taking a week off. The only thing I'm going to do is I might get in the pool, but more for recovery, easy stretch out swim. That's it. And I'm really looking forward to that because it's been, honestly, because we've just had this doubt. Like I kept training last year thinking this is going to happen or this is going to happen. And then I Everested and I started thinking, oh, well, you know what? Like this is going to happen next. And we're on the hook for so long.
The uncertainty is, it's amazing how much the uncertainty introduces stress. So
yes. Yeah. But it's weird. Like I feel no stress for tomorrow.
That's great.
I normally don't sleep well. I think I'm gonna sleep well. I don't feel like, I don't think I don't know. It doesn't, to me tomorrow doesn't matter. Like the result doesn't matter for me for some reason.
Right.
It's like I'm back racing. That's what matters.
Right.
And like win, lose, draw, first place, 10th place, 20th place. Yeah. I just want to have a good day. And I used to really, I used to really stress about like winning and being on the podium, and I don't feel that this time. And it's good. It's healthy.
Well, I think that's part of rebooting. I was listening to another podcast and they were talking about, just having that mindset of having no expectations, not having low expectations, but just going and doing it again and just let the race happen and, enjoy that event, working hard and, expect the most out of yourself, but not necessarily having any expectations because it's all going to be, relearning at this point. So
yeah, it's a reboot, right? And maybe later in the season with some other events, I'll have more anxiety but I'm kind of enjoying the fact that I don't have it now. So this would be a good sports psychology test.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think there's going to be a lot of interesting studies that come out of this COVID year into this, and you're right, just that sports psychology part of it.
Yeah, because if I could figure out this Zen state I have right now, and could push that forward to other races, I got to bottle what's happening right now.
Yeah,
and I don't know like if I could do it again.
Yeah, I know. Because how do you bottle gratitude? It just is, because it's an attitude, and you're gonna be at the start tomorrow, and I'm sure there will be the anxiety that we all have.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
at the
There'll
same
be.
time, it's going to be a different anxiety. It's going to be.
I'm gonna have a smile on my face from ear to ear underneath that mask.
Yeah, right.
Because I'm back doing what I love. Like, don't get me wrong, I love training. Like, I really enjoy. And we've talked about this here. You enjoy it too, but I love racing.
Well, and what's interesting is, we've each had to. Well, I think we have at this point had to miss a race for some reason, or you take time off, but that's an N of one. That it's just you. You're going to be at that start line with an N of 3,500 other people who all had to take the same year off, and they're all going to be. I think it's going to be such a neat experience to see everyone enjoying getting back to racing.
I'm nervous about people's bike handling skills.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've ridden outside a ton.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people that have not ridden outside much at all.
Yeah, right.
In this COVID era. And I'm a little nervous about, I'm not nervous about me. I'm nervous about others and others that could affect me.
Yeah. Bike aid stations. I mean,
yeah, I know they're dangerous.
They are. But you're the good thing about this course is it's a point to point.
Exactly.
You don't loop up on any part. So
and hopefully by the time I need one near the end, I'll be pretty far into the thinner part of the pack, as it were, and won't be as dangerous, hopefully. Yeah.
All right. What's the porta potty situation in the morning look like?
Oh man, as per usual, not enough.
Yeah.
I was like, well, the house is only 2 miles from the start. Maybe I should run back to the house.
Yeah.
That'd be my warm-up run. I just, we have not really talked about this before, but there's never enough porta potties at a race, right? And to me, like, I get, like, times are tough in racing right now, but when times were good, that was always a sign that the race director doesn't care.
Yeah, right.
They only care about their bottom line.
Yeah.
And I get it. Like, every porta potty costs this amount of money.
Right.
But when you're standing in a line for a half an hour pre-race to go to the bathroom, the anxiety that I'm gonna miss my start. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. And the truth is maybe the race directors need to race more and realize that everybody needs to go, especially before a race, like a long race like this. Everybody needs to clear it out. And yeah, to me, it's a slap in the face when as a racer, when that is a limiting factor. I really believe that.
I think I read somewhere, though, with COVID, I think there are still some restrictions on the placement of porta potties, and so that might actually be an issue.
So what they've done, John, it's really interesting. In the transition area, they've spread them out.
Okay.
So they're doing like little pods of 3.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah.
But outside the transition area, there's a line of like 15 in one spot and a line of like 10 in another spot, and they're just tight.
Yeah.
They're tight together. And yeah, so I might have to run down to the campground.
Yeah, right.
Knock on somebody's trailer.
So a couple things on that is, when they put those pods of 3, on one hand, that seems great, but then you run into the decision, oh, well, maybe there's a shorter line at the next.
Oh, no, it's stressful.
And then you go to the next pod and say, oh, well, maybe it's a shorter, go to the next one. And there's, oh, let me go back to the original one. No, now that's twice as long. And so
I know.
You run into, so here's my advice that I always give to, people doing their first one, sort of my fun advice. You stand in line, go to the bathroom, and what do you do after that? You go back and stand in line right away.
Exactly. No, you're absolutely right.
Up there again, you're gonna have to use the porta potty at least twice, if not 3 times. So
that's another professional tip. I agree. So,
yeah, I've run into that problem where you're standing there in line and you're supposed to be in the queue, and now all of a sudden you can't get in the queue because the way they have the queues laid out, you're having to fight people to try to get through to get to the right starting corral. And
the only good news is because the way they're doing the rolling start this time, so you have to wait at your bike.
Yeah.
And
Oh, okay.
then they're gonna announce like, okay, 33 to 35-minute swim times. You come down now.
Yeah.
So the truth is that if you get stuck in the porta potty line, you could just go no later.
Well, and I'll tell you, that's how they did Nice, and it was great because we were all standing up in the bike transition area in essence. And the swim start had a corral, one corral where you did sort of a loose organization, and then they moved you to another corral, which was more, okay, now get in your time slots, and then you went to the start, and it was.
That's the way it should be. Like, the days of racing where it was Oceanside's the worst, right? Where you get stuck into this tunnel of people.
Yeah.
And it's like 5 across and everybody's just like this, and you're in that line for 45 minutes, just squeezed in like sardines. Why can they not just say, hey, wait at your bikes? We're going to call, even back in the age group days, we're going to call the 35, 39, come on down. You got 5 minutes till we start. You walk down. Everyone else just wait at your bikes.
Yeah.
Because nobody likes that feeling of being around strangers. Well, maybe some people do, being around strangers that are all have anxiety, all have this like stress running through their body.
Yeah.
And it's not good. I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent, but we've talked many times about, the deaths and swim deaths in triathlon and relating them to anxiety. Like, we got to do what we can to decrease people's anxiety pre-race. And I love this situation. I hope if nothing else happens from COVID, this stays.
No, that's great. And I haven't raced Oceanside now for like 3 or 4 years because of, I think I got sick one year and
deferrals.
It's been deferred, right? So,
but you know what I'm saying at Oceanside with that, where they just kind of put you in that tunnel of.
It was terrible. It was terrible because now you don't have access to the porta potties either, and you got to get
exactly
the queue early enough so that that was a tough start there.
So if the Oceanside race director is listening, you've heard me. And John.
Okay, so I want to hear from you on T1. What were you getting set up that you said that you either were worried about that you had forgotten, or all of a sudden you said, "Oh, I know I need to do this."
In T1?
Yeah, for
nothing.
T1 set.
Because my bike is the only thing that's there right now.
Okay.
So my bike is there, and that's it. Everything else is still here at the house.
Shoes.
Yeah, everything's here. They're not allowing us to clip our shoes into the bike.
Okay.
Which is weird. Like, they said, well, the way out is too thin. Same as it's always been, but okay, like whatever. Like, as long as everyone has the same rules, I don't care.
Yeah, right.
That doesn't bother me.
Okay, so how about T2? You put your stuff in the bag, and what's something that you put in the bag that you remembered last minute, or that you were anything that
yes, I'm going to tell you. Okay. So I could not decide what to do with my watch.
Okay.
I decided I got a nice watch, 945, and I decided I'm not going to swim in it and I'm not going to bike in it.
Okay.
It's in my bag at T2. And that was a decision I made that I was like, well, you know what? I'd rather not have that on. It's a little less aero to have the big watch on. Getting my wetsuit off is a little harder with the watch. And so I just made the decision. So kind of like last minute at T2, I'm like, I'm just gonna put my watch in my shoes.
Okay.
And
nice. Okay. Then speaking of that, everyone's been waiting. What shoes are you gonna wear?
I went with the Vaporflies.
Interesting. The non-carbon.
The carbon.
The carbon.
Carbon Vaporflies, because they were and what came down in my last test, they were basically the same as my training shoes.
Yeah.
And what happened was, a couple of things happened. Number one, they were a lot lighter.
Okay.
They were like 3 ounces per shoe lighter. Yep. And I'm like, on a hilly course, because I only measured myself on flat, right? So I figured on a hilly course, over time, maybe the 3, right? Number 2, they were definitely softer under the foot.
Okay. I like that foam. That's
right. So the foam was softer. And I was like, you know what? After 2.5 hours on the bike, basically in a cast,
Yeah.
a softer feel might feel good.
Mm-hmm.
So that was number 2. And then number 3, I got a new pair of the training shoes that I was like, okay, I'm gonna break these in.
Yep.
And it was like 2 weeks ago. I'm like, okay, because if I still hadn't decided, and I took one run in them, and I got a blister on my heel.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, you know what? I'm not messing around with these.
Yeah, right.
I'm gonna break them in. Like when I get back to
Yeah.
training in 10 days from now, then I'll start using those ones again.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going with the Vaporflies, and yeah, I don't know. It's the downside to them. There was some downsides. Is the tongue is super, super thin, like it's like parachute material, and
as you're trying
getting it on and not folding it.
Yeah.
And I'm using elastic laces, so that's, you know, like I think it may take a couple extra seconds of bending over and stuff in T1 to actually get it set, but it's a couple seconds.
No.
And then the other downside was they don't breathe because it's that parachuting material, and I'm worried my feet are going to get hot.
Oh, interesting.
So we'll see, because I did one run where it was pretty hot. Was it the Death Valley run? Was it Death Valley? Yeah, my feet were starting to get hot.
Well, we had a student do her thesis on what happens when your shoes get wet and how they perform in mechanical testing. So you're okay there.
They might not. They might get wet, but they might not get wet on the inside.
Right.
Right, because that's where basically they're waterproof.
That was the study she really wanted to do, is have people run in shoes that would simulate if they were wet, and that's the weight. But we weren't able to get that done because of COVID. But at least she was able to determine the impact characteristics were still relatively unchanged. So that's good.
So the trick is to pour water all over yourself to keep you cool and not get your shoes wet.
That's right.
It's an impossibility.
You don't want any extra weight, especially on a course like that.
Yeah.
And I know you're on the other thesis committee that's coming up, and I think we're doing next
shoe
week.
volume.
Yeah, and how, what happens to foot volume when you're running a 5K. Yeah. So have you read it?
I'm really interested to see this.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you the Reader's Digest version. Interestingly, so she measured foot volume before.
Well, let me predict. Can I predict?
Okay. Yeah.
I am predicting that your foot volume goes down after you run a 5K. It gets smaller.
Okay.
That's my prediction. And I predict that because of increased venous return, increased lymphatic return from the muscles that are actually pumping. And then I think that down the road, when she retested, they may have actually gotten bigger. That would be my hypothesis.
You may be close.
Okay.
Okay. So she measured foot volume before a 5K, had subjects run a 5K, and then measured foot volume right after the 5K, and then every 5 minutes for 3 other times, I think it was. And foot volume was not different immediately after. All right. So
it was the same.
No, that's right. It didn't increase. All right. So that's where I'm saying you're close. But then at the next 2 measurements, it did increase.
Yeah. And that doesn't surprise me.
It came down. Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me that happens. But it's really interesting, right? And why she did this thesis, and we should probably have her as a guest. But why she did this thesis is because everyone always tells you, oh, you need to size your shoes up in a run because your feet are going to swell during the run. I just think that's not true. And maybe it has to do, John, with the population too, right? Because she did on collegiate level athletes.
That's right.
That are running quite fast.
That's right.
Compared to somebody running, let's say, a 4-hour marathon.
That's right. Well, and to your point on the foot size, she actually measured foot length as well.
Right.
You want to take a guess at foot length? And they're using a standard. She used a standard.
I'm going to say foot length increased.
No change.
Really?
Yeah. And
she wasn't using like to the millimeter. She was using the
scale that you see when you go into a shoe store, and the width stayed the same too.
Yeah, the width. I guess once again, I'd be interested to see if you measured it to like the 0.5 millimeter or whatever. And that only gives you an ABCD. So it's not
that accurate. But
once again, it's only 5K. I think if you were to take a marathon, we could get different results, but it's still good stuff.
But so what's interesting about that, though, you're spot on about the 5K marathon. But now, if your foot size, she did show changes of foot volume after the run,
right?
But that means foot volume is not changing in length or in width, so it must be, in that third dimension. So that's what's interesting too. So and that's where you were mentioning is about buying that shoe a half size larger, and everyone says that.
I don't do it.
I don't know. Maybe you really need just to buy, a different width shoe, not a different long shoe. But that's partly what you're trying to get.
Maybe you should race in elastic laces like all of us triathletes do.
Totally.
So the shoe can expand with your foot.
Yeah.
In the volume.
That's right.
Of the foot. Because I think that might be more relevant.
Yeah.
For sure. All right.
And now we got to move towards doing 3D scanning. So I think that's where.
I think so too.
That's where we need to go. So, and our phones will be able to do that soon. So,
if not now,
some you can be thinking about your foot volume and your shoe weight size as
when I'm running tomorrow.
Projects that we've done. So,
I'll think about when I'm running tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I should go. I got to get some dinner. It's 8:00.
Yeah. Awesome.
Here. So, thanks, John, for another awesome talk, and we'll talk after the race tomorrow. Just you and me.
Happy racing. Enjoy the start line. Enjoy the finish, and obviously we'll be tracking you and cheering you on electronically. So,
all right. And anyone that's look on the tracker, I'm 883 is my
awesome.
All right, cool. Thanks, John.
All right, have fun. Good luck, everyone listening.